First, I would like to. This is a question I'm asking on behalf of the people who haven't seen the film. I obviously just saw it. But if you had to summarize the film, what it's about, what would you say?
The film is about something very simple. A woman and a man taking a lot of time to talk about all sorts of things, about sex and love, memories and childhood, and summer, and the seasons, and nature, and what matters to them. The film is about taking a time out and just talk. And it's about how nature can ground you and how you feel different when you're sitting in a beautiful garden with a wide view, and when you see Paris way in the distance, and how it gives you a peace that might help you to talk differently. These people are not rushed. The film is not rushed. Audience who haven't seen it. And it's time out. The movie theater is such a privileged time today to take a time out. And a lot of movies today rush you, and this film is not rushing you.
Do you think the audience, or do you hope even that the audience, after having seen the film, will maybe start thinking about these quite big issues themselves?
Of course, they can feel free to continue the film in their thoughts, to continue thinking why things go down in the end of the film, why this is all washed away at the end, and what the big threat is for this peace, this peaceful time out is under threat and it disappears in the end. What is it that disappears? And it's a film that is, as simple as it is, still a film about the state of the world today. And it has many repercussions. You can see them, you don't have to see them. You can dream the film on, and you can walk away from it.
There was a very strong, well, of course, they were the two main characters, male, female, apple, Garden of Eden kind of a setting, talking about love and all other very big things. Do you think there is a fundamental difference in the way that men and women view some of these things that, of course, in the film they view them differently, but also maybe in the world?
Yep. Ever since Adam and Eve, men and women had a different view of the world, and they still have. And maybe that's why the dialogue is sometimes so difficult, because men's mind works in different ways, and women's memory work in different ways, and women are seeing and remembering things in a more emotional way, and men more in a factual way. And you realize also slowly in the course of the film, you start thinking, well, how do I think? And most people are a mixture of men and women. Nobody is just only man or only woman. And you might think about all this as you follow that dialogue.
That is a very good bridge into my next question, because I was intrigued by the choice of dialogue as a method for telling this story. Could you maybe elaborate on why you came on this decision?
Well, the text is by my very best friend, Peter Handke, and it's the first text he's written in French. And it's a very elegant, very relaxed text. And I realized when he was showing it to me for the first time, asking me if I might want to do something with it, because for years we wanted to work together again. And I loved the text, and I thought it was an important text. And I realized I wouldn't want to do it in the theater. I was interested to really put it into nature and to hear the wind and to see the leaves and to see Paris and I realized it was a text that is it's missing today, this sort of text, this sort of text that explicitly talks about men and women. The dialogue between men and women somehow doesn't take place. We're too busy with all sorts of things, but except for realizing who we are.
The peacefulness of the setting, I'm also trying to compare it with if the same dialogue had taken place in a theater. Maybe the peacefulness of this nature setting also reinforced the content of what they were talking about, because they were in a way freer to talk about.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I've seen the text played on a stage, and it's more crispy, and you're not so detached. It's a whole different thing, because here you're so grounded, and even as a viewer, if you see the film in 3D, it's shot in 3D, you're also in that garden. You're in a different way in that garden than you could ever be otherwise. I mean, the film takes you into a very peaceful realm. And that's why it's also so disturbing that in the end this peace doesn't exist anymore. But it's a way of including the viewer. I think it's a very inclusive experience, the Beautiful Days of Aranquez.
Was this also the reason why you did this in a 3D format, to pull the viewer into this, as you said, into this garden?
I think 3D has this amazing poetic and tender capacity of putting things in front of you so that they're really there. These two people are really there, and the apple is really there, and the trees are really there, and Paris in the distance is there in a different way than on a flat movie theater. This film is really a window, and through the window you see the entire world, and you see humanity through the example of one woman and one man.
Thank you. My final question is about your inspirations, why you decided to start working on this movie at this point in your filmmaking career.
I was here in Venice for the first time 44 years ago with a film I made about, and from a novel by Peter Handke, The Goalie's Anxiety at the Penalty Kick. And now, 44 years later, I'm here again with another text of my friend Peter, and his work and his writing and his very humane and very gentle and precise and I think important writing has accompanied through my entire career, and every now and then we work together. We worked on Wings of Desire together, we worked on Wrong Move together, I produced 2 of his films, and every now and then we both had the need to continue in that common place. And I thought this text here, The Beautiful Days of Aranquez, was a good reason to continue our constant collaboration.
If you allow on that theme of a writer, the decision to include the writer in the film, in addition to the couple engaged in the dialogue, that was fascinating.
Yes, I wrote that in myself. That is not in the text. And I realized that while I tried to imagine how a woman and a man would talk to each other really peacefully, I realized both of them were invented at the same time by a writer. And you really follow the mind of the writer. So I realized in a film it would be great to see the writer and to see his process, and to realize a writer starts from an empty page, but he also starts in an empty world. That's why the film begins in such an empty world, in an empty Paris like you've never seen it. There is nobody because he hasn't started to write yet, and of course today these images have become, all of a sudden, sadly, have a different meaning. But it goes with the meaning of the film as well. I mean, the world is an empty place until you imagine it, until you imagine these people. And so actually, you might even say the writer is the principal character. Even if he follows and writes, and even if most of the time you see the woman and the man talking, you realize every dialogue has to be invented by somebody.
That's a beautiful way to end. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience.
My pleasure.
Thanks.